Well, good morning. How's everybody doing today? Yeah? Raise your hand if you're still kind of half asleep. After that, that's pretty good if you're half asleep after that one. So you kind of heard about my career, and that's why I laughed when Sherry was like, oh, tell us about your career path. And I said, where do I even begin and how do I get there? So I figured I would start in the beginning. I was a beautiful child, right? I don't know what happened, but I was a beautiful child born in Pennsylvania near the Hershey chocolate factory, which explains my sweet disposition, right? So my early life was pretty normal, actually, and then it got crazy after that. So when I thought about how do I explain how I got from this to where I am now, I thought about this quote from Robert Frost, 2 roads diverged in a wood, and I took the one less traveled by, and that has made all the difference. And that's really the truth of the matter. This statement it's factual for my career path, and it's also a huge lie, right? And I hope I can explain what I mean by that as I talk to you today. I've made some choices along the way, taken some roads that were less traveled, and it's made a good difference, and it's made a crazy difference at the same time, right? So let me explain this as we move along. So the left side is usually what we think of success, that you set this goal and you go for it, right? Who has a career goal here? Right, you're all here studying something, you're paying lots of money for it, right? I want to get to know you guys just a little bit, right? Keep your hands up. You in the back in the glasses, what are you studying?
Business management with human resource management emphasis.
We'll talk after. We'll talk after. All right, who else? What are you guys studying? What are you studying?
I'm a pre-med student.
Pre-med student, okay. So when your doctor making lots of money, you can sponsor our bobsled team, so we'll talk after as well. What else? What are you guys studying? Come on. Yeah, what about you? Marketing. Okay, that's what I do all day long, so you're going to love it. It's so much fun. I guess that depends on which company you work for, but it's fun. So what else? Anybody here communications? I know you're communications. Anybody else communications? That's eventually what I ended up going into, but that is not what I thought I was going to do. See, when I was a child, I kind of thought, I'm going to be an astronaut, I'm going to be a fireman, I'm going to be a cop, I'm going to be a soldier. I mean, all those typical things that a kid thought they were going to do. If you told me when I was 10 years old that one day I was going to be doing bobsled and then coaching some of the first Paralympic athletes in the world, I would have laughed in your face. And that's when I realized success is really like that picture on the right-hand side. It's messy. It goes all over the place. But that is the beauty, right, of life. So I grew up in Oklahoma, right? Apparently I had a Beatles haircut. I'm not sure why. Might have been when the Monkees were famous, but I played soccer and baseball growing up, so that was my first experience with sport. And I played catcher, so after I got hit in the face a few times with baseball bats, because they're kids, they'd hit the ball, throw it back, and hit me, I realized this is not what I want to do. So at a very young age, even though my dad wanted me to play baseball because my grandpa played for the Cardinals, but I realized it's not about what other people want you to do, it's what you want to do. Right? So I quit baseball, all right? And then I started asking that question that we all ask. I'm not sure I've grown up yet, so I can still ask this question. What do I want to be when I grow up? Again, I thought, I'm going to be an astronaut. I'm going to go to the moon. I'm going to be a cowboy. I'm going to be a policeman and a fireman, just all these different things. I was going to be Batman at one point in time, because Batman's going to get old. Somebody's going to have to take over when he retires. So that was on my game plan. But then we moved to Oklahoma, or we were in Oklahoma playing sports and everything. We moved to Utah, right, the great state of Utah. And I realized that there are states that snow more than an inch. You see, in Oklahoma, when it snows an inch, everything shuts down. You don't go to school, you don't go to work, because there's no snow plows in the entire state. But then I moved here, and I realized sometimes it snows a couple feet. So I kind of started reading more on those days that I couldn't go to school, and I started to love to read. So my mom, in her wisdom, put me in a writing camp when I was, I think 11 years old or so. Now, I know some of you think I'm old, but I'm not quite this old, right? But I got my first taste of creative writing, right? Part of the camp was to come up with these characters and come up with a plot line and come up with just a whole story. I thought it was awesome. I thought that was so cool that I could create an entire world. Maybe this will be better, okay? So I could create an entire world in my mind. I think you guys just need to chalk outline like a circle until the speakers do not move from this point right here. So anyway, so I started to develop this love for writing, but I still love to read, right? So by this time I had experienced sport, I had experienced writing, and I had experienced books. Now, I didn't think any of those things were going to be in my future, but I knew that I liked them, right? So then something crazy happened when I was about 16, 17 years old. My dad, who is second from the left, who if you look really closely looks strangely like President George Bush, and he actually got asked to be a body double by the Secret Service, so little fact about my dad, but he was sponsoring the US bobsled team, his company was. So he came to me one day, and I was in high school at this point, and he said, come bobsledding with me. And I said, okay, because I'm a teenager and I speak before I think. But then he left the room and I thought, what did I just agree to? Right? Because I hated roller coasters growing up. So he talked me into it, and I said, okay, so you can see in this picture right here. I had no idea what we were going to do. We showed up, they gave us the helmets, they said this is what you do if you want to survive this ride. If you don't, you might die, and then you sign your life away. So took this first ride. You can see I'm sitting third from the front, so I'm in the very back, and that's my coach, Randy Will, who was pushing us off, became my coach. Shoved us off the track, and that's all I remember after that. Bobsled is the most intense sport in the world. It is amazing. Raise your hand if you like roller coasters. Who likes roller coasters? Okay. So I have to warn you that if you ever take a bobsled ride, it will ruin roller coasters for the rest of your life. Because you do bobsled, then you go on the roller coaster, and the roller coaster becomes, this is nothing. So I want you guys to see what I experienced this day. All right, so I'm going to show you a little video. Move out of your way. I'm going to try to turn this off so I don't kill you with the... What's that? There we go. No, I turned it off so I didn't kill everybody when I stepped down. So anyway, so that's bobsled. Raise your hand if you want to try this. Awesome. I'm going to show you another video in a couple minutes, and then we'll see who still wants to do this, right? So anyway, so I did this in high school. That's when I started. So at this point in my life, I had experienced writing, books, and sports. And then in high school, I started doing public speaking. Right? My coach would send me to these companies would request a speaker, so he'd be like, you go. I had no idea what I was doing, so my first speeches were awful. I mean, they were terrible. I'd stand up and I was so nervous and I'd be shaking and my voice would be quivering because, you know, I'm a teenage kid and I'm speaking to these hundreds of people, these business executives. I didn't know what I was doing, but I knew that I liked it. I thought it was great. I thought it was so much fun. So now you can kind of see why when I say that my career path is all over the place, because even in high school, it was still getting started in all these different areas. So I won my first bobsled race ever, and I kind of thought to myself, I'm stepping outside the circle here. I thought to myself, I can do this. I mean, I just won my first race ever. I can do this. And that's when I realized one of the most important things that I can share with you guys today. With whatever career path you are taking, it's all about your coaching and your mentoring. Right? If you want to be successful at whatever career you are choosing to go into, you find someone who excels in that field. You pick their brain dry. You ask every question that you can, and you listen and you take notes. Right? It's not about reinventing the wheel, but it is about designing your own tire. Right? Your career path is your own. But to be successful at it, there are people who have reached great heights before you. You can learn from them and hopefully go even higher. Right? So coaching is crucial. It's crucial. And that's also when I asked this question. Sorry, the font on this computer is different than mine. Bad graphic designer here. What is a champion? Well, a champion, when I go to elementary schools and I ask this question, they all raise their hand. A champion is a winner. There's someone who gets the gold. That's one definition. The other one is someone who fights for or defends a person or a cause. You are the person you have to fight for, and your career is obviously the cause that you have to fight for. Right? Do not fear success, and do not fear, right, reaching the highest level that you can. Right? It's exactly what you should be doing. You should be a champion of your career path. Right? So anyway, so high school I continued. I did bobsled. In this picture, I was underage, so my butt is covering the Budweiser logo on this sled right here. But I joined the youth program, got to do more speaking. I thought it was great. And then in high school, I kind of toyed around with writing some more because I was bored in class. So while my teachers thought I was taking notes, I was actually writing stories. I took what I had learned throughout my life and in that writing camp, and I started writing stories with my friends as the main characters. Right? My friends all love that because they got to be these heroes and these great stories. So I was doing bobsled, I was writing some more. Then I went to SKYLINE High School, right? That's where I went to high school. Any SKYLINE Eagles here? Your dad teaches there? Okay, then you're the cool one in the class. Good job. Okay. So anyway, I went to SKYLINE High School, which is great because it was just right at the mouth of Parley's Canyon. So I would get out of school, go up and train, get home about 11 o'clock at night, 12 o'clock, do homework, go to bed, get up early, do it all the next day, right? But I loved it because bobsled was awesome. But in high school, I got to do more writing development, and I took this class that was computer design. Now, computer design, it wasn't like designing computers. No, it was actually using the computer to design notepads, t-shirts, posters. I mean, it was so cool. I loved it. That's when I started to really learn about graphic design. So writing, graphic design, speaking, and bobsled. These are the 4 paths. The foundations were being laid at this time. I didn't know it, but that's what I do now. Okay? So I went on a mission for the LDS church, got back into bobsled, and I decided, you know what? I'm up here training all the time and racing. I might as well work here. So my first real job was at the Utah Olympic Park in Park City, where I was a tour guide. Right? So as a tour guide, I got to talk about bobsled, which was great. I got to write because they asked me to write some of the curriculum for or the content for the brochures and the website and so on and so forth. And then I got to start using my design skills to design brochures and posters and entry cards for the museum right there. And I thought, this is cool. I can do this. And then I learned a lesson that all of you will learn if you haven't learned by now, that careers are great, but there's going to be opposition and there's going to be people that you don't like that you work with. So I've been at the park for a couple of years, and they hired a manager on there who made our lives miserable. 4 of my coworkers quit within a month. 2 more quit the next month, and I asked myself, how long am I going to last here? How long can I do this? And that's when I realized another lesson I want to share with you guys. The fire within, no amount of money is worth working at a job that diminishes the light within you. All right, I'm just going to tell you that right now. Right? No position, no title, no paycheck is worth it. And I realized that. I realized I was worth more than this, and I deserved to be happy in my career. I was the champion of my career path. So anyway, I left the park with this thought in mind. This was a motto that the U.S. Olympic Committee put out, and it was for us as athletes to remember that it's not every 4 years, it's every day. We have to train every day for the Olympics. But I realized it's the same with a job. You're going to do your job so much, right? And if you're at a job that makes you miserable, it's not worth it. You are worth so much more than that, and you have to have the courage to look out for new opportunities that are going to inspire you and bring happiness, because a paycheck does not equal happiness, okay? So anyway, so I left the park, and I got a job at my dad's company. It was a great opportunity. Another thing I want you guys to remember is do not be afraid to use your social network to find job opportunities, to get letters of recommendation, to get introductions to the HR manager or the managers or whoever you need to talk to. Right? That's one of the best ways to get a job. You know, I know people say the job market is still tough, and it is, but that social network expands your opportunity paths to get a job. So anyway, I got this job, and they gave me some great opportunities. I was very lucky. I got to do graphic design at the international level, right, which was unheard of. I was still in my early 20s. And to be honest with you, I kind of didn't really have an idea of what I was doing yet. It was an on-the-job learning experience, so my first ads that I did weren't that great. I was using a program called PageMaker, which is way outdated. So I knew that to continue, I needed to learn the Adobe suite, which if any of you are doing graphic design, includes Photoshop and Dreamweaver, Illustrator. So I just decided to learn Photoshop first. So I started to do ads like this that were a little more colorful and had more layers and so on and so forth. So a big part of being successful in your career path is learning the tools of the trade and continuing to learn the tools of the trade, right? I know graphic designers that stopped learning, right, and they stopped progressing. And their work looks like it was designed in the 90s. So when it comes out now, nobody wants to hire them, right? So whatever you are doing, continue to learn, right? Continue to progress. Don't ever stop learning. So I got to do some great stuff. This is one of the most historic cars in the world. It's the Mormon Meteor. It's based here in Utah. So I got to do this piece that was handed out to thousands of people at a big show in Las Vegas. Got to do a huge poster there as well. It was just a great opportunity. So I learned on the job, I learned these programs, and I learned that I liked to design. Okay, got to stay in my circle here. But again, I learned that not every career path is going to go smoothly. So my dad decided to sell his company. And the new guys who came on board were great at first, and then I realized what they were doing. Right? And I don't want to go into too many details, but they ended up putting somebody over the design department who actually really had no idea what he was doing. Right? His ads started to cause the sales of the company to go downhill. Here's the problem. One of the new owners was his dad. So I realized here I'm dealing with nepotism at a high level, but I'm also dealing with another job situation where how long do I stay? How much is this paycheck worth to me? And there's always going to be fear, right, of leaving a job to go to somewhere new. It's unfamiliar, it's a new thing, but that's where that courage comes in. That's where it comes time for you to be a champion for yourself. So I decided after a while, I said, you know, I can't do this. I can't come to this job every day. Right? I can't be creative like I want to be. There's no future in it. Right? This is going to continue to go downhill. So I left. I left there. I put in my 2 weeks' notice. I left. And bobsled actually helped me have the courage to do that because I was continuing to race and compete. And I realized, right, it's all about passion. It really is about passion. You have to find something that gets you up early in the morning that you love because, again, you're going to do your job a lot. Something that you don't mind working extra hours if you have to. Not that we all want to, but it's all about passion, right? So I continued to train in bobsled, and I continued to excel in that. But I continued writing as well. I continued doing graphic design. And so I got a job at a chiropractor's office. It was one of the largest in Utah through my sister. She was a massage therapist there. Again, social networking, asking for people to help you find jobs. So she introduced me to the doctor. I showed him my work, showed him my portfolio that I had done, and he hired me. And it was great because it was right next to Salt Lake Community College where I was going to school. So I got to design brochures and billboards and things I'd never done before. But at that time, I knew that web design was going to be the future. I knew that was going to be big. I knew that's what all companies were going to want. Every company's going to want a website, so that's where I was going to make my money. So I started to teach myself web design, just kind of on the side. I ended up building a website for this doctor and a few other ones, one for my bobsled team as well. Sometimes you have to look forward as well. Where is your career path going, right? What is the future? Visionaries, they're not amazing because they have these great visions. Oh my gosh, I can see the future. But they put all the pieces together to figure out where their career is going. And that's what each of us has to do. We have to decide, where is my career going? Where is this field going to go? And how do I stay ahead of everybody else? Right? That's what a champion means, is you stay ahead of everybody else. So anyway, so I worked there for a couple of years, and then we found out from some of the largest insurance companies in the world that this doctor was committing insurance fraud. Right? So again, I'm in this another situation. What is this, 3 now, where I have this career that's, how long do I stay here? Because this is going to get bad. I mean, we're talking lawsuits were involved and all this stuff. So in the end, he actually let everybody go because he owed these insurance companies millions of dollars. Okay? So this is something you will all experience if you had not experienced it yet in your career path. There's going to come a day where you're either going to get fired, right? You're going to let go, you're going to get a severance, something like that. And it's just like this punch in the gut. Even though I knew the writing was on the wall, it was still, oh man, now what do I do? So this is kind of what I realized was, at this point, I can be discouraged, which I kind of was. I mean, I lost my job, and even though it was all his fault, I still felt discouraged about it. But I realized I am the master of my fate. I am the captain of my soul. My career path is mine. It's all in my hands. And so I decided to just kind of focus on schooling for a little while. Salt Lake Community College. I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. Anybody here undecided? Holy cow, you guys are so much better off than I was. Oh, yeah? Okay, so we're in the same boat, right? I totally understand that. I spent a couple of years at Salt Lake Community College. I was still doing bobsled. I was still doing graphic design work for small clients here and there, but I wasn't sure what I wanted to do yet. Because you guys have seen, I have bobsled, motivational speaking, writing, graphic design, advertising, business. I didn't know which one to do. Right? I didn't know which one I wanted to do because I love them all. How do I make this all work? So this unique opportunity came up. I found a job listing on Craigslist. You will find jobs in the most random places. So Morris Murdoch Travel, who's heard of them? You guys heard of them? They do have an office here, right down here in Orem. Okay. So there's a job listing for an assistant graphic designer, and I thought, I can do that. I mean, I've got some years of experience now, so I'll go work for the web designer that was there and the graphic designer that was there. So I was their lackey. I did everything they didn't want to do. They gave to me. But I got the opportunity to really hone my skills a little bit more, to use Photoshop more, to do more on websites, to learn coding and so forth, right? So I spent some years learning from them and teaching myself and taking some classes at college. So I got to do some very unique things. This is an ad on the top left-hand side. The top right-hand side was an ad that was in Forbes. The bottom left was this huge wall-size display that we did, and those people were supposed to be big enough that you could stand in front of it and read, you know, I'm stuck in my cubicle, I have to work, I wish I was on a beach, I could go on a cruise. And then you look over to the right and you see all those places that you could be, right? So I learned advertising. I learned there's a little bit of psychology in advertising, right? There's a great TED talk on that, the psychology of advertising. You will never look at an ad or a commercial the same way again. But I was learning all this stuff, and then the swine, do you guys remember swine flu? Came out, right? What do you think that did to the travel world? Up or down? Killed it, right? I mean, Mexico, where Morris sends cruisers and honeymooners and weekenders and families all the time, plummeted. So there's that, and then the economy started to go downhill anyway. So next thing I know is this. Raise your hand if you want to try bobsled. Keep them up and put them down if this changes your mind. Okay. Did that change? Okay, you'll still do it? We'll talk after. We'll talk after. So anyway, that's what I felt like. I felt like, oh my gosh, am I just bad luck for these companies? I mean, I get let go, I deal with a doctor who was doing fraud, I deal with a manager who's killing everything, and now this company's going downhill because of swine flu. Am I bad luck to companies? And I realized that was completely trash thinking. But that's what I felt like. I felt like everything was just upside down. Again, right? Again. And you're going to experience that. Remember those pictures in the beginning where the career path to success is all over the place? Some of that all over the place are the bad experiences, the bad managers, right? The bad jobs you get asked to do, the stuff you have to learn, the conferences you have to go sit in that bore you to death. Those all come with a job. And that's why being passionate about your job is so important. That's why being a champion of your career path is important, because you decide what's worth it. You decide what prices you're going to pay. So I went back to school even more. I really focused on school. I did 12 credit hours, 14 credit hours, 18 credit hours. I decided finally that I was going to do journalism, because I was also writing for a magazine that was down here. I don't know if it still exists, but it was called Schooled Magazine. I'm not seeing any nods, so it must be gone now. But I was writing articles, right? It was great. I got to go interview the BYU cheerleaders, the UVU women's soccer team, Miss Utah, And all my fellow writers hated me because I got all those jobs. Well, they had to go talk to like the janitor and just like all these jobs. And they're like, why do you get to go talk to all the girls? And I say, well, it's because I'm a better writer than you. They didn't like that very much either. So anyway, so I decided journalism. So I really focused. I did 12, 14, 18 credit hours, and then 12 hours my last semester. So 18 credit hours, it was a lot because I was still training at the time. Right? Bobsled was still going on during all of this. So I really focused on school, I discovered my passion, writing. I loved it. I thought this is going to be great. So 18 credit hours, made the president's list because I got a 3.75 in 18 credit hours, and I thought, athletes can be smart too. So I graduated, and I thought this was great. So I was still doing odd jobs for clients to pay for college. As you all know, it adds up very quickly. So just doing random jobs for everybody. Then I graduated, and then I got an email and a phone call from my old boss at Morris Murdoch, who said, would you be willing to come back? I said, well, tell me what's going on. And she said, well, we know you do writing, we know you do web design, we know you do graphic design, we know you're good at advertising. We want you to come back and take over because we're going to let the other two go. So those two that I was the lackey for so long, let go, and I got both their jobs combined. And they were not very happy with me. But part of it was because I just kept learning. I kept learning, right? So anyway, now I get to do some great stuff. I won't bore you with all the stuff that I do. This was an ad that was just in the newspaper this last Sunday on the right-hand side. Left-hand side, I got to design this awesome poster for the big annual expo that Morris Murdoch does. This was last January, right? So I'm doing graphic design. I'm doing what I'm loving. I'm still getting to write because I'm building their websites. I'm in charge of their websites still. So I manage all the websites for Morris Murdoch Travel. Okay, they're one of my main clients now. So I get to do all this fun stuff. I still get to bobsled, and I still get to write too. So then, we'll move through this really fast. I was going to coach the Israeli bobsled team. That didn't work out. So again, I thought, my career path is going all over the place still. Then I got asked to coach the U.S. Adaptive Bobsled team, which means they're Paralympic, wheelchair, and amputee athletes. One of the greatest experiences of my life. It was so amazing. I had such a great time. Got to design the logo for the team, which was just great. Worked with some just incredible athletes, right? And I realized, and I wish we had more time to go over this, but I realized there's a difference between a job and a career path and a passion. Those are all very different things. But a job is something you do for a paycheck. A career is something you do because you're good at it. You think you kind of like it. But a passion is something that you love, right? And you're good at. So you can kind of see the differences. There's the outside circles, and then there's the four in the middle. You want to shoot for the star in the center. Something you love, something the world needs, something that you can be paid for, because we don't all want to work for free, and something you're good at. Those are the four things. And if you can get a job that has those four things, money right there. It's gold. It's awesome. Okay? So, and I can give this to Sherry, and you guys can put the whole thing online if you want to, right? But this is really where it's at. And that's why I love what I do. Because I don't get to do just one thing. I don't get to do just writing. Because the world needs books, right? It needs writers. But I get to do graphic design, and there's companies that need that, and I'm good at it. I get to do motivational speaking. And there's companies and there's schools and there's stuff like this that always needs a speaker. So I get to do all this stuff. I get to be right in the star in the center. It's awesome. And that's what I want to challenge you guys to do. Figure out how to be the star in the center. Okay? So anyway, one thing recently that I got to do was actually put my writing to some more use. I always thought writing a book would be cool. But it seemed like this really big thing to do. I was kind of scared of it for a little while. I had ideas in my head. I actually have ideas for 12 books right now in my head, right? One of which I want to turn into a movie. That's in the future. So I started really small. I started with The Champion's Way, okay? It's just this little tiny book, right? Very tiny. Self-published, okay? Self-edited too, so there's a few grammatical errors in here. But there is a reason I started with this one, to get my foot in the door, to kind of prime the pump, as they say. Because then I could approach a publishing company and say, I have a book out. And that's how I talked them into publishing this one. A little bit bigger, right? So this came out about 2 years ago, right? All across the nation, actually around the world. I mean, there's there's stores in Canada that carry this because they love bobsled. So sometimes you have to take a leap in your career, okay? We won't talk about this. You can see this if you look at it later. But you have to take a leap, and you have to be willing to take that leap for yourself. Again, it's not about a paycheck. There are miserable people who make far more money, right, than any of us do right now. And there are extremely happy people who make less than we do. It's all about, like that graph showed, it's all about being in the center. It's all about having that job that makes you happy. So anyway, so I've got to do some great things as well. When you talk about doing something that the world needs, the Athlete Outreach Project is a way I get to use my graphic design, my writing, my public speaking, and my organizational skills with other athletes. We just do charity work all over the world. And then Team Phoenix Bobsled is my bobsled team. We got to do this photo shoot for the Sochi Olympics, wearing what we call the McDonald's uniforms, because it's really, I mean, you can't see the designs. They're hideous. They're awful. But just some great experiences. What I've realized at this point in my life is that on your career path, you cannot have what is officially called a telephobia, which is the fear of not being good enough. It is okay to go to a job interview and be nervous. It's okay to look at this great job opportunity and think, I don't know if I can do this. I don't know if I'm good enough. But that's where you have to take that leap. That's where you have to have that courage for yourself and say, I can do this. I can do this. If I didn't say I could do this, I wouldn't be doing bobsled. I wouldn't have books out. I wouldn't be here speaking to you today. I wouldn't have the job that I do. Right? Kill the telephobia in your life. You are good enough. Okay? Just a couple last things I want to show you, then we'll do questions. Sorry, you can kind of see all my career paths have been all over the place. I feel like my life is a bobsled ride. Twist, turns, down, just all over the place, crazy. But this is one of the things that I've seen this in people's lives, that fear stifles our thinking and actions. It creates indecisiveness that results in stagnation. I've seen a lot of people that are extremely talented, but because they're afraid, they do not grow in their career path. They're stuck where they're at, and they're not going to go any further, right? Lost opportunities cause erosion of confidence, and a downward spiral begins. I've seen this in athletes. I've seen this in writers. I've seen this with people I work with. I've seen this in students, right? I do speak at a lot of schools, and I see this in students. They stop because they think if they try, they're going to fail. Failure is okay. I told you about some of the failures I've had in my career path. You can come back from failure if you learn from it, right? This one is also something I learned from bobsled, is that you don't have to be great to start, but you have to start to be great. You have to start somewhere. When I first started coaching, there were these athletes that just came on board, and then they looked at athletes like at my level, and they said, oh, I'm not good enough to be that. And I said, you have to remember, I've had over 10 years of experience at that point to get where I am. Right? Don't compare yourself to somebody who's had 20 years of experience in your career path, but give yourself time to get there. Right? One of the last things is nothing is impossible. The word itself says, I'm possible. Right? Again, you are the champion of your career. You are the champion and the determiner of your career path and the level of success that you reach. It's not about luck. I mean, sometimes job opportunities seem lucky, but it's about how hard you're going to work. It's about how hard or how much passion you have for it. And as Walt Disney said, it's kind of fun to do the impossible. Right? So if you see something that looks impossible, do it anyway, because it's fun to do the impossible. So anyway, I just want to tell you guys, just if you'll do all these things, I know amazing things await you in your career paths. Right? So just be passionate, find what you love, right? Meet the needs of the world, right? And don't settle in your jobs. So anyway, I hope that's helpful for you guys. So thank you very much. So
we have time for some questions if you'd like to ask me anything, if you'll just wait for the mic so we can get it on our camera. So.
Oh, now they have to be on camera. Oh.
So just a quick question. Is this working?
Sure.
Okay, yeah. So are you married with family right now? Oh, okay. I was gonna ask, like, how do you find, like, or how do you maintain, like, stability between bobsled, work, and family?
Carefully. It's just time management, really. Like, it really is. And it is a great question, because that was a big concern of mine in my early 20s. Like, how do I do all this? And it's just time management. It's not being afraid to say no. Like, if there's a project that a company wants me to do and I don't have time for it, I'll just I'll tell them the truth. I'll be like, I have too much on my plate right now. I can get to it at this time, and if they can wait that long, then we'll put the project off and do it then. So yeah, just time management-ish, in a very small social life sometimes.
What are your next projects you're working on with
So
bobsledding?
next projects, I have two really big ones. Right now I'm working on a curriculum version for youth of the Champions Way. So it will go to, it's going to be a 4-week course that I'm going to be teaching to boys and girls clubs here in Utah to start. And then the Children's Miracle Network actually wants the curriculum to send to their 150,000 youth across the US, and then it will go to all the Boys and Girls Club teens in the US as well. So it could potentially be out to 250,000 to 300,000 teenagers in the US. So that's one. The next one is my next book. And then the big one is the book that I'm going to turn into a movie. So it's a bobsled fiction book. You can all be in it when we start filming because it'll be here in Utah. So just email me. We'll make that work. So those 3 right now. So yeah. Thanks, guys.